So what do we know so far? We know that we started out as a pastoral people. We had goats, livestock that we herded around with us, and we kept moving so that they could graze in different places. We know that Mesopotamia was really wet, with it being the Fertile Crescent, and there was swamplands. It was like the lowlands. So the walls weren't to keep giants out. The walls were to keep the water out. They built the land on the inside up, built a wall over it, and then drained it into the fields next to it, where they did all of their planting. No giants, no fallen angels. So the city of light, started with a couple of they did these huts. They carried flax stalks with them. They tied them, and they would dig a hole, and they would bury it. Then they'd bury the next flax stalk next to it. Then they cut the strings in the flax stalks, give them a wall. Then you could put a grass hut on top of it. Later, they used, when they were doing more pyramid stuff, they built little rock walls or mud walls, and then they put grass on top of them. The ziggurat was actually baked bricks, just like we build houses now. The earliest masons. Think about that for a minute. So this area here, this is where I'm starting because of Abraham, the mystery schools. This city started out a couple tents or a couple of these flax houses, and then they would leave with the goats to the next place that they were feeding. They'd build flax houses there. But what they were learning to do was they were learning what grew in different places, and they started moving grains around. So if I plant a bunch of grains here, we'll move on to the next place. When I come back, my grain, I'm going to have a little crop. And eventually they found that because of the weather and the ground, that they could plant a lot there. So some people started staying. Some of the people would keep going. Some of the people would stay. The next time, some more of the people would stay. And eventually, you've got 1 hut, 2 huts, 5 huts, 10 huts, 20 huts. Somebody builds a mud house. These mud houses were, how much money you had, that kind of thing, because the mud and the brick was labor intensive. This is a big money making outfit. So it was labor intensive. So the people with a little more money would mud their houses, and then they would paint them white to beat the heat. And then where the doorway was, they'd paint red on the top of the doorway. You Christians who believe that this whole painting red on your doors for the angels is a legitimate thing. It's a carryover from Mesopotamia. One of many, in fact, as we're going to discover as we go along here. So we have pastoral people, and they walked around the areas with their little goats and their sheep and their stocks, and like the old guys in the Wild West. And they used the stars was their TV. But how do you tell your planet? How do you tell your kid that So Satan, when Venus comes through, when Saturn comes through, when whichever star clusters that we're looking at come through, are telling us that it's time to move on. So if you tell this to your kid, he's looking for this planet because he knows as soon as that planet comes, we're not going to stay here anymore. We're going to have to go to the next place. And that set of stars, that planet, that is a bad vibration for them. So their whole life, and these stories get propagated. Inky and Enlil, this Zachariah stitching gods thing. This is stars, cosmology. Zachariah Stitchin didn't have access to the same information then that we have now, but he gets great credit for the translation that he gave us. Is really close. It's just not right. So that's where we are. I've gone over. I think that this video is going to be like 52. I've got them numbered to about 20, and I'll try to finish the numbers. But I know a lot of you guys don't like to read a lot. I put pictures down there, so like where we actually start talking about Abraham and what I think is going to be the mystery schools. There's 3 of them that say this is the mystery schools. Where we're just talking about the crops and planting. Those pictures are like rice and stuff growing. Of course, the van in the mystery school is where I give you these notes like this, and I'm going to follow this out to the end and see what happens. I hope to tell a lot of good stories, learn a bunch, and we'll see what happens. One love.